The sales robots have taken over, and they're decimating deals left and right, destroying them right in their tracks. On the AI for Sales podcast, our mission is to empower everyday sellers to embrace AI superpowers to build new bridges and crush quota. Dr. Joel Abon said it best in the AI for Sales book. In sales, time kills deals. In AI for Sales, AI kills time. Join our hosts as we learn from the C-suite of the world's fastest growing companies about how you can leverage AI today to transform your sales revenue engine while being the best version of you.
Welcome, everyone, to another AI for Sales podcast. I am here with Matt Swalley, and we were just exchanging some conversation about the past, and it sounds like Matt had some background with AT&T around the time that I had background with WebEx. So small world. Matt is the co-founder and chief business officer of Omneky, and we've got a lot to talk about today. So Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chad. I love AI and I love sales. So I spent many of my years at AT&T leading sales teams in the direct sales side. And now I'm over on the digital marketing side, utilizing AI to drive leads and sales. So trust me, it really hits home with what you're doing on the podcast.
Wow. Well, I love it. There's so many companies that I talk to that as the market seems to be coming back, they're relooking at labor versus efficiency, optimization, productivity. And, I just talked to someone yesterday who said, hey, I traditionally had 6 BDRs support our team. If I could do it with 1 or 2 powered by technology, I'd rather do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where things are headed. Do more with less, highly optimized, very customized, win-win for the customer, the salesperson, the company, the CFO. It's win-win all the way around. So
yeah,
exciting times, that's for sure. Well, help our audience connect with you, Matt. I'd like to help kind of ask the question, where were you raised? What was your thing as a kid? Because it's sometimes fun connecting the dots between then and now for our listeners.
Yeah, I grew up in Indiana, so Midwest. Went to Indiana University, so basketball school. I was absolutely obsessed with basketball. So I know one thing we were going to talk about is what made you tick when you were growing up. And from the youngest age, I picked up a basketball, and all people do in Indiana growing up is shoot hoops. So I spent hours every single day on that basketball court shooting all the way till 10 p.m. at night until, you're asked to go inside from your neighbors. So that was my first obsession was basketball. And then it got into studying scores for the Indiana Pacers. And I know you were just talking about how you were doing something with the NFL players, but I grew up just understanding basketball and following every single stat and using that 10,000 hour, trying to hit the 10,000 hours of practice shooting hoops.
Wow. That's neat. I did get to see a few of the Warriors games in the playoffs a few years back. And what a lot of fun that was when you see Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and just some of the superstars of the sport.
Chad, my player was Reggie Miller. So I know he's a commentator now, but growing up, that was who I idolized. He was just so good, and he had that absolute killer mentality where when the game is on the line, you want him shooting that last shot, no matter what. I would used to, play myself in different games where it was Reggie Miller versus Michael Jordan, and believe it or not, Reggie Miller won every time in that case.
That's exactly right. Well, I love to hear that. I've been to Indy several times recently, just went to the Indy 500, a company that I served for about a year and a half there as a customer on their board of advisors. I was going there quite a bit. So I've grown to love the state. It's a really nice place.
Yeah, I've been to that race many times, and it's a great weekend to be in Indiana around Memorial Day when the race takes place.
Yeah,
400,000 race fans in.
This is May is what they had on the big JW Marriott building there. So
yeah.
That's cool. Well, let's pivot a little bit into artificial intelligence. I kind of like to think at the 30,000 foot level first, right? There's so many things that AI could be used to help with. My son's in college at School of Mines, so in coding, he can ask the thing to do coding. They just changed the rules that you're now allowed to use ChatGPT at School of Mines. And I think that's beautiful because imagine if they let one kid go for cheating, then they got to let them all go.
Yeah.
So we're in a new world today. But, thinking about just the world at large, what are you most excited about that AI can potentially solve in the coming years?
We're in a stage right now in this part of the decade that we have never seen except since the early days of internet. And you keep hearing people say that, but we're at this place where the technology, and Omneky is the artificial intelligence marketing platform. We were using it in the early days of 2020, the GPT-2 in it. So we've been along and seen this evolution. I joined 2 years ago, but we're entering this spot that everyone's trying to figure out how to plug it in and solve business problems. And what we're excited about is you're getting closer to personalization, Chad. It's not there to one yet, but like if you're a sales organization, and let's just like think from enterprise when we were talking about Cisco, WebEx, and like the AT&Ts of the world, you might have like 100 different products or 25 different products, and you have different channel marketing groups managing each of those products, right? We're getting to a point now where you can take all your assets, like brand assets, product photos, things like that. AI can actually scan them. A tool called computer vision can identify what's in them. It can categorize them. You can then write a script with AI. So you can say, like, we want to focus on the airline industry or retail. Please write a script based on this customer segment of medium-sized businesses. Our platform will write a script for a video. Then it will piece together the different components. And then you have an ad for retail, like that airline industry specific. And in the past, that would have taken 3 different teams, from strategy to product marketing to production. You can now empower those teams to have like a much smaller, more nimble team, and empower those other people to go focus on more important things like brand marketing or whatever else they can focus on. That's what we're excited about.
Very cool. Yeah, true one-to-one marketing down to the last mile is awesome. I think of one of those movies where Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, and you're walking through the airport, and all of a sudden it flashes up an ad on a screen. Hey, Chad, it talks to you. And I mean, I just see a time and place where that's a reality. So it's very amazing.
Well, where we go, Chad, with that is all the platforms that you advertise on. So attention spans of consumers are getting shorter and shorter. They're going from sports websites to apps to Zoom calls, whatever they're on. And what's happening is you have to be able to follow your customers to all those different mediums. And then that's where those platforms can't release personal information because, Chad, your information is valuable. They get in trouble. Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, they get in trouble if they share personal information. So they make their algorithms so smart that they know what you've looked at. The platform knows what you've liked, what you've looked at within each platform. And then if you feed that platform the right creative, so like the ad that resonates with what you've been looking at, it's going to serve that to you. So that's why you need more effective creative. If you have different products that could reach different people, you have to have the creative now to reach those people. And that's another interesting element where like it's going to pop up and they're going to be like, oh, we know Chad looked at this before. Watch the football game on Sunday. Here's a Washington Commanders ad.
Right. And if you don't get sophisticated, then you're leaving conversion on the table and you're not going to be as far ahead as your competition and you're going to get crushed by the competition.
Right. And from a sales perspective, so Omneky uses our own products. So we're a B2B company. We focus on business leads, mainly in mid-market / enterprise / agencies. But we use our own product. And what you were saying before, like we had that discussion, back when big sales organizations, when we led sales teams, it was a lot of calling people on the phone, sending emails. Now you're getting thousands of emails a day or hundreds of spam emails. People don't pick up their phone. Digital advertising has to be the baseline because now you're drawing customers in. So they're coming to you many times for our case, a demo. We give them a quick demo. You have a discovery call. Sales is becoming more transactional, which can be hard at certain points, but it also allows you to meet with more people. You can meet with people all over versus before you had to meet with them face-to-face. They're still face-to-face. And then you can work on improving your demo and other areas of conversions, like what's not clicking with those people coming to me, right? You can filter people out if they're not the right people to sell to. It flips the model from more outbound to figuring out inbound, you can have a much leaner team taking 8 sales calls a day for our team, for example. And then before it would have taken, 5 different salespeople reaching out to people to set those meetings. Now we have 2 or 3, and then they're taking 8 meetings a day.
Love it.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about digital. I think of digital and I think of ads and paid ads and SEO and website visits and all that kind of thing. I'm just starting to really poke into influencer marketing, and part of the relationships that we have through this initiative that I mentioned to you before is all these NFL athletes, NBA, WNBA, et cetera. They've got 25,000 followers minimum, up to Tim Tebow has over 1 million. And so getting the right content into the right person at the right time that has the right network seems to me to be an area of opportunity in the market. I imagine that your product doesn't just plug into a paid ad, but could also work nicely in an influencer marketing area.
That's right. So organic, you can generate content for many things. It can go for paid advertising, which you're reaching people that have never seen your content potentially. It's called prospecting. Then you have organic, which is all the people already following you. And then you have these influencers that have huge networks that can go talk about prayer or whatever is important to them. And it becomes one of the largest drivers. And then like the most successful companies are doing a combination of a lot of those different things and testing different ones, like Instagram stories, of course, or TikTok. Video works so much better with user-generated content like you're discussing. And then this is the other interesting thing, Chad, that is here already today, but you're going to continue to see more of it, is virtual avatars. So there's AI that looks so much like a human. We could go train AI on you, Chad. You record a 3-minute video. We now have AI Chad, and I can type up a script, and then we can have a user-generated content produced in a couple of minutes with you on it, talking about a certain thing. And that's where it gets really even more complex from before you had influencers. Now you've got influencers plus AI or just AI.
Yeah. And you could probably make me lose a couple pounds in the face, take the red nose away, and all those kinds of things at the same time.
The interesting thing about all that, though, is production took a while. Now you're getting into really potential localized content where you can have it, Chad say things about Colorado or a city or somewhere. Come on down to my office here and chat with me. And you can, do that 10 times across different cities with the click of a button versus producing a bunch of different stuff.
Wow. 5 years ago, when I first launched the business, it was called ScaleX at the time. Now it's BDR.ai. And we partnered with a company that nobody heard about called Nova in San Francisco. And it would read your LinkedIn, and then it would serve up 10 to 12 different personalization sentences. So I started challenging some of the biggest players out there, SalesLoft and Outreach and others. And I said, hey, we'll put our AI in a room with your best BDR, and let's write as many possible emails as possible. And then we'll test it. We'll see which one gets the better results, and we'll win every time. And people were just coming back saying, this is gross. How dare you? This is going to impact jobs in a massive way. And I was like, I can see it coming. It's already and now 5 years later, it's being built into everybody's product. And sure enough, now human in the loop still matters in a very big way because of hallucinations and other things. What are your thoughts on, human in the loop? Which jobs get affected the most? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh, this is a great question. Human in the loop is absolutely necessary so we have one on the Omneky side and the customer side. So we built this approval dashboard that has potentially a company could have different levels of approver before anything goes live. Because when you're getting to an AI avatar situation, there's huge licensing. Like if you have someone's trained on AI, you have to license that, by the way. So it's going to have to be a business owner or someone, unless it's a fully artificial intelligence person. But human in the loop is absolutely necessary today. The first generations of AI last year had more bias than the current one, so it's getting slowly better. It's just learned on what the data is out there. And if the data out there has bias, there's bias. So human in the loop is definitely necessary. And then your second question was, what was that? the next part on that?
What impact on jobs do you foresee? Yeah. Who's affected first?
Yeah. So interesting spot is content generation is one of the first majorly impacted segments because image and copywriting and all this is there. It's at the commercialization standpoint right now. If you see it on like the major, they call it the S curve. It's on its way down almost. The interesting thing is the jobs you're seeing less affected are the ones that are in service. Which you're going to see. That was something I had an interesting conversation with a while ago is like some of these manual labor jobs that can't be done by AI are extremely valuable. And the jobs being impacted by the current wave of AI you can pull stuff on legal for lawyers, consulting, all these jobs that have been office jobs are being
a little
impacted.
bit of the higher echelon, not the entry level.
Right. Yeah. So that's what we're seeing. And then, you're also seeing like kind of a convergence of jobs in the creative standpoint where you're empowering. It really does empower three major things today: creativity, ideation, and humor. That's what people are finding the immediate use of like a lot of AI from a large brand standpoint. What Omneky is doing is streamlining workflow. So making it really easy across. Like a lot of these big companies could have 3 or 4 people generating content. We're trying to bring it down to so 1 or 2 can do the entire process versus, strategy, copywriter, designer, ad approver, trafficker. We're making a single place to scale that.
Yes. Yeah. Because when you can have your hand in the cookie jar on all of the tasks, it gets done better. There's no leakage in the handoff.
That's right.
I'm seeing that for sure. I just watched a video on TikTok, those 3 minutes, and there's 2 of them within 2 days that shows you how to go to ChatGPT. Hey, write what are 52 of the top Bible verses in the Bible about love, prayer, faith, whatever. Then you copy and paste that, put it in a Google Doc. Then you suck it into Canva, you pick a template, and then all of a sudden you've got your 52 Canva templates that are ready to push to your social media. Amazing. All within minutes. That used to take hours or days to be able to deliver something like that.
Yeah, and it goes into your question too, like which jobs are impacted, and that's why you're going to see a lot of small businesses that can grow a lot bigger with less people.
Yes. Wow. That's it's so hugely powerful. Let's drill down a little bit more on Omneky. So we've talked about at the highest level, what would you say? What's the name of the space that you're playing in?
Paid digital advertising today, and primarily we use data, like performance data, meaning like we look across the different platforms, Meta, Google, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the social channels. We bring in data. We look at different audiences and which ads are being clicked on or purchased from or lead gen from. And you can quantify like what are the different elements of those ads that are performing well. And then we use those to generate more ads with AI and plus human in many cases with video. But we are that content generation tool powered by data.
Got it. There was a company I heard speak at C-Suite Network in New York about a month ago, and he grew his business selling products, toasters, those kinds of things for the kitchen. And waffle makers happen to be like the number one selling product. The difference is they built it and they did all the A/B testing on Amazon Marketplace and on and they don't just do an A and a B. They do A through Z, and then they start back at 1 through 100. It's multiple variations of the testing. Yeah. And to your point, it just got better and better to where a large company, they had to create all of a sudden $40 million worth of inventory because they were selling so much. And they were like, this is a big risk for us. Who can we partner with? So a company out of France that's been doing brick and mortar for decades, 100 years, I think, came in and said, okay, we'll write you the check, and then took over 55% ownership or something. Multiple $1 million exit, probably $500 million exit.
Wow.
And it was because of their ability to use what it is we're talking about here today effectively.
Yeah. One of the misconceptions we have is like, people are like, isn't there ad overload, right? They're like, do you need that many ads? But you got to start thinking about the math. This is where I keep bringing this up is, so you could have 2 or 3 audiences. You could have 3 platforms, Meta, Google, LinkedIn, you want to advertise on. You could have 3 different products. You could have 3 different locations that you want to advertise, and you need 5 different concepts. So an image, short form video, long form video. You could use this with prayer, like you were saying earlier, where you're showing a clip of a prayer versus a script on an image. It comes out to like 800 ads if you're trying to go across all those different platforms.
Wow.
That's where it starts to multiply. If you're just doing it within one platform, you do need to creative test. Like you said, we look at 70% of the time we're kind of iterating off of high performing creative. 30% of the time we're testing brand new concepts. There's ad fatigue at like 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere in there. Like ads start to fatigue and you have to keep refreshing creative.
Well, so it's interesting because I had this talk with a marketing partner that I'm partnered with this morning. So Pray.com pushed out some of the advertising for the event that we put on in Washington recently. And they normally get X number of views and X number and Y number of likes on Instagram. And ours performed much lower than that, right? And so now our banter back and forth was, well, they're normally doing a Bible verse. Ours was a call to action. So it definitely stood out, which could either perform better or worse than what normally does. But when I looked at the other comparables, there was one from a month ago or 2 months ago, the National Day of Prayer. And that one performed similarly, although we were slightly worse performing than that one. But there's so much, everything's so data driven that you can get a double or a triple. Reminds me of like, we used to do this thing with corporate visions on the whiteboard, and it was called the number play. And you'd go up and you'd write numbers and you'd say, okay, this number, this number, this number. What do you think that means? And this one number play we did, it was Tiger Woods stats. Yeah. And it was like this number, this number, this number. And the difference between Tiger and the number 2 player was like hundreds of millions of dollars, all because of those 2 to 3 extra strokes here or there.
Wow.
And that's what I think about when we're talking about this, because if I would have optimized the Pray.com post a little bit more, instead of 300 to 400 likes that we got, the other National Day of Prayer got 1,000. So we're 3 times worse performing. And then of their normal ones, they get 10,000. So how do we make ours behave more like the 10,000 like post?
Yeah. You learn from data and you test. Good call.
Yeah. So talk to me about where do you think the future is? Because like we just talked about at the beginning of this conversation, the internet came out, and I remember sitting by a friend at my backyard saying, man, how are we going to make money off of the internet? And it seems to me that we're at that very tip of the spear again. Where do you think people should be thinking about getting into picking a position, choosing a company to go to work for? Think of it from that perspective.
Okay, so a couple of recommendations, and I'm in the middle of this. Like our CEO comes from a computer science background from Harvard and everything. It's moving so fast. Many times I'm like, how do you keep up? And I'm trying to keep up as much as I can. So one is read all the AI newsletters. So there's a couple I like. Ben's Bites is one of the great ones. And then test out. A lot of this is open source free applications. So if you have time, test 1 or 2 a week or a couple a week, because you got to start learning how the technologies work, how to prompt, how the pieces fit together. And finally, third, there are going to be some bets here. So there's lots of generative AI, thousands of these companies that have started since then. We've been around since 2018, actually. And we were the first TechCrunch Disrupt generative AI company last year, by the way, which was a big achievement because we were ahead of the big wave. But there's several out there that are going to solve an actual business problem. Lots of them have a cool feature. So if you have a cool feature that wears off or doesn't, you got to find the ones that are actually solving a very focused business problem. And that's where you want to bet. If you find one that's like, this is solving something, like people are getting tired of prompting, by the way, Chad. Last thing on this is we went through this evolution of people really thought AI was cool. They're going in, putting in all these prompts are like, amazing, it's generating this. Now they're like a little fatigued on thinking what to prompt. So now they want others to do it for you. And that's like the next stage of solving a business problem, making it easy for the customers.
Yeah, that's right. Just built into the workflow. 100%. Right. There is a prompt generator plugin that I discovered called AI PRM.
Okay.
That has a bunch of the prompts. It's a Chrome extension. I believe it was free when I plugged it in anyway. And it has something like 7,000 prompts. So
wow.
you can say, write my $1 million offer. And it has IP from all of these other people and processes built into the prompt. So it's pretty interesting. But
cool.
Yeah, I agree. You keep thinking forward, and pretty soon you're going to send an email and it's going to, boom, it's just going to be there on the side and say, do you want to wish, Matt happy birthday? Because it's in 3 days.
Yeah.
Or show him his favorite color is blue and things like that.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. Just so I make sure to understand, Ben Spice, is that who you said?
Ben's Bites.
Ben's Bites.
Yeah, BITES. You can just Google Google that, or
I'm gonna put that in the show notes.
bensbites.com. He's got a daily newsletter. It has about 3 updates on the news, just like your morning brew for news. And then it has about 10 different applications that were just created on there every day. And I, click on a couple, test them out, see what I think.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, our newsletter has 3,400 or so at this point, and we put out one every Saturday. It's on LinkedIn, so it's a LinkedIn newsletter, not an email one. So should be fairly easy to find. I'll put it in the show notes also.
All right.
But we follow places like Ben's Bites and just these kinds of conversations, and then we highlight, the ones that we think solve real business problems, to your point. So
great.
That's outstanding. Well, it's been great having a conversation today, Matt. Really appreciate your input and understanding. We've been talking to Matt Swalley of Omneky, and if someone wants to get a hold of you, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
You can email me at Matt, MATT, at Omneky, OMNEKY.com. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn at Matt Swalley, or go to our website and schedule a demo and put in the notes you heard about on the AI for Sales podcast, please.
Outstanding. Well, really a pleasure to have you, Matt. I appreciate the time, and we'll have to have you back in a year and have the conversation and see if things have played out as we expected.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Chad.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining another AI for Sales podcast.
Hey, you made it this far in your AI for Sales journey. Want to augment your sales growth? First, leave us a review and then visit www.scalex.ai to claim your free strategy session today.